Hey, everybody, welcome back to the High Performance Zone. Today, we go through the 6 steps to overcome the fog of disruption. And we all know we've been through a lot of disruption. This is coming from David Giersdorf, who has a history of life in the cruise industry. And if you think about what got impacted the most by COVID, is the cruise lines. And so we will unpack how they got through that. Also, though, we dive into the personal side of being a beacon of light. We talk about being a beacon, a 3-year life plan, and being able to codify in your life success. So anyhow, this is a really fun one. I look forward to it. Let's dive in. Gucci, hit it. Hey, everybody, I got a global expert in travel, cruises, but really a man who's making a difference in the world and helping us through disruption. So first off, David John Gucci Foley, welcome to the High Performance Zone.
Hey, John, I am glad to be here. And, just really stoked to be a part of your incredible contributions and to have a chance to speak and share some thoughts with your audience. Right in my wheelhouse, it's what I love to do. I wouldn't say that I'm a motivational speaker, but I am a contributor in a lot of ways. And I think at the end of the day, that's what you're doing. And I'm glad to be a part of that.
Awesome. David, we gave you a new call sign. Sugar and my team made you the Storm. All right. So now we get call signs on this podcast. But let's give our audience a little bit of background. You know, you have a tremendous experience in global travel, which right now is all about experiences, right? So tell me how that started. What was your background?
I was born into the travel industry in that I was born in the frontier of Alaska before statehood. My father was a young single parent and quite an entrepreneur. He was in the aviation business, the early days of Alaska Airlines. And he played a big role in putting Alaska on the map as a tourism destination. And in fact, when I was in my teens, he started what became the family company, All Hands on Deck. My dad, my sister, and I, in launching a small enterprise to bring what we called the real Alaska forward for travelers. So we developed Arctic tourism, the Pribilof Islands, off the far tip of the remote Aleutian chain. We operated Glacier Bay National Park as the concessionaire, the largest maritime national park in our whole system for many, many years. We built a fleet of small cruise ships, which no more than 100 people, that made it possible to access wilderness areas and experiences beyond the reach of any other form of travel. And this branched out around the world. To other destinations, this concept of travel and experience. And we sold that business in the late 80s, and that propelled me into the larger global cruise and travel industry, where I spent decades helping build out several of the brands and much of the idea around the global cruise industry. In fact, I served a term as chairman of the Global Cruise Industry Association along the path of my career. So I have a perspective all 7 continents, all types of cruising, from extreme expedition to extreme luxury, everything in between, and all the travel experiences and hopes and dreams of travelers that surround all of that. So there's some background.
What a life. You know, 2 things that hit me, and one is that the cruise industry, you know, speaking of disruption with COVID, and how can we use the example of the cruise industry to help all of us through these challenging and disruptive times?
I would, a few things. Number one, it's not like the cruise industry hasn't been disrupted previously. And that's true of all of us and all of our businesses.
Okay.
And if we handle disruption properly, we gain some built-in muscle, memory muscle, some resiliency, and some best practices and some mindset. So there's a foundation of dealing with disruption. never at this scale, never in the past has there been a global disruption that shut down, you know, the entire industry. Here's a $45 billion industry radiating outwards through momentum. You know, the flywheel's going, new ships, new markets, lots of people coming back because it's the most satisfying vacation on earth, et cetera. And then all of a sudden in 30 days, shrinking that into a tiny little ball. I think of it as the reverse Big Bang. And think of the last 18 months, all that energy radiating in here, you know, looking for a way. So a lot of lessons in the 3 stages of disruption from the event itself, you know, I call it the injury, to the treatment, and then the recovery phase. And of course, we're just now emerging into the recovery phase as an industry. I used the cruise industry and many disruptions from the past, not just this one, as a filter through which I put forth a playbook, which I called the 6 protocols for successfully navigating, you know, through and coming out the other side of disruption in your business, in your career, in your life.
Let's dive into those 6 protocols. But before we do, have you ever been to ADAC? I know you talked about Alaska extreme experiences. I used to be on the carrier Enterprise, and I'll never forget, we were doing these, this is back in the mid 80s, right? And Russia was, you know, the Cold War was actually still going on at that point. And we actually did a cruise up into the Aleutians to demonstrate that we could fly and protect that area. And I remember the water was so cold that we would be flying in these things called dry suits, right? So if you went into the water, you actually only had, I think it was 23 seconds before you would lose control of your fingers, right? I mean, and you took passengers up there. So what was that experience like to take people?
Yeah, I've been into ADAC as a result of a flyover. The Aleutian chain, or the Pribilof Islands, are a remote, extraordinary, lost in time set of islands where 180 species of bird, the Arctic blue fox, the largest fur seal herd, you know, span, and the small Aleut native community and Russian fur trader history. It's amazing. So remote, hard to get to. We would fly out there in these PBY prop planes with 40 people at a time. And sometimes we would miss because of the fog. You know, we'd circle, we'd approach, and scary as the dickens. And then we'd have to, you know, head over to ADAC or somewhere else on the chain and wait out the weather. And sometimes not, you know, we'd have to go all the way back to Anchorage, Alaska. Yeah.
Well, I remember, you know, you talk about the fog coming in. So I remember launching off the carrier. We launched about 15 airplanes to do, you know, sorties. And it was nice. You know, the weather was good. The weather came in, the fog came in so fast that we did an emergency recall, and but it was too late. So I remember being on the LSO platform trying to get these airplanes back aboard, and we come in, the way we come in. Did you see the movie Top Gun, by the way? Did you ever see that movie?
Indeed. Can't wait for the next one.
Okay. Oh, the flying is so awesome. Wait till you see the footage that we have in these new camera work. But we were coming down the chute, and it says, you know, 3/4 of a mile, call the ball. And what that means is, can the pilot see the landing source on the carrier? Well, at this point, he would call Clara. Clara means you can't see anything, right? And we'd say, okay, keep it coming. And then all you can do is listen. You're just hearing the engines. You can't even see the jet. And then at some point, you got to wave them off, right? And I'll tell you, we were waving people off. It took about half an hour. Nobody got aboard. We're looking for the fog to lift. We started to launch some tankers to get airborne because people were running out of gas. There was a good chance we were going to lose a bunch of airplanes that day and potentially pilots, right? And then all of a sudden, just by an act of God, we come out of this fog bank and we got everybody aboard. but it was one of the most challenging experiences that I've ever been a part of. So for you to have a company up in that area of Alaska and your dad, that's amazing to me that you were able to create something like that.
Oh, that's great. I appreciate that. The fog is unique, isn't it? I talk about the fog of disruption because there's adrenaline associated with being in the fog, even with all the other signals and metrics you have to tell you where you are. That loss of physical connection to the environment and your surroundings is anxiety provoking, and I think that anxiety can lead us to forget what we know, and it can cause mistakes.
Yeah.
And so it's really important to be prepared so that you can put anxiety in its proper place when you're dealing with a disrupted, set of circumstances, even like what you just described.
I love what you're talking. Let's get into the fog of disruption and that preparation, on the Blue Angels, we would call it the brief. Before we went flying, we were always getting prepared, right? And getting ourselves mentally prepared, not just physically prepared. So talk to me more about how did you learn to deal with the fog of disruption?
I learned the hard way. You learn more from failures and missteps than you ever learn from your successes. Yeah. And in fact, I always tell people, I'm less concerned about your great success. I'm less concerned about your humility and embarrassment over failure. I'm concerned about what did you learn and how are you applying it and how are you sharing it? That's what matters. People get so lost in failure, being embarrassed by it, wanting to deny it, shove it away into the past, but it's so rich with value. And it's really important to look at it positively. But so the Braille method, my childhood was quite disrupted and difficult. Building a business in the frontier with my family was difficult, and building a career in this global industry was difficult. So a lot of lessons in doing that. And I thought, how do I boil that down? I've been working on this. I journal extensively. I'm a thoughtful person. I'm a reflective person. Wow. Journaling's been a way to deepen my life or my appreciation of my life. So, so I thought, I have all these journals, I have all these notes, I have all these thoughts. I want to share something. I want to, connect and personalize in an otherwise impersonal world in a way, so what can I do here? So I ended up with the concept hardships and my 6 protocols for survival, stability, and success, and my 1 mindset, the endurance mindset. I accept what's hard. Okay. So
I like that.
Yeah. So, and I have my protocols, they're in the right order based on experience. And I've applied these protocols time and again. Know your waypoint. Number 1, you've been disrupted. Something has changed. What is the truth about where you are now? We're often on a path that we're committed to entirely. That's how we succeed, especially for entrepreneurs and hard driving executives. You're going down that path hard and fast, and you don't want to let go of that. There's people around you who have agendas of their own, who don't want to really accept the truth. Stop, slow down. Where are we? Wow, different set of circumstances. From this point forward, we've been disrupted. What kind of disruption is this? Is this a short jolt and we can get back, our feet under us? Or is this some kind of long, slow leak? COVID's been a long, slow leak. Yeah. We're in this for the long haul. We're going to see iterations and changes, and we're going to have to be very flexible. So knowing exactly where we are is important before you can do anything to start moving through a disruption to come out successfully to a better place. The second protocol, go right ahead.
So when you say, no, hold on, let's go deeper. Yeah, let's go deeper on the first one because I think it's critical. You call it know your waypoint. So that's your reference point, right? Where are we right now? Or does it involve the vision of where we're trying to go? Is it both, or is it just the current state?
It involves setting aside where we're trying to go for a moment and assessing where are we.
Okay.
There's new signals, there's new facts. We're in a new place. Maybe we're still moving in the same direction. Maybe we shouldn't be, but maybe we are. But probably we're moving at a different speed and in a different way. So let's just get really clear. Let's accept that something has happened, something has changed. Let's understand what it is and what we can know about it and internalize that. You know, take a moment, get smart. Let's not just react. No, let's understand. Let's understand. Let's measure. Let's be thoughtful about what's going on here. That's my first protocol. Know your waypoint.
Okay, I love it. And you mentioned so many good points here. One is this idea of getting clarity, right, and being open and honest. What do we learn from the situation? We call that the debrief in the Blue Angels, right? What did we learn from the situation? But when let's take let's take COVID because it's so obvious right now. What happened with the cruise industry with COVID? How did you walk me through your 6 protocols using the COVID situation?
Okay, so at the beginning, it seemed like this was another SARS event, a regionalized virus. In the past, we could move ships out of certain regions. We could concentrate on testing or guests who had traveled or been in certain regions. This was a global event. There wasn't anywhere that wasn't safe from COVID. So coming to that realization and coming to the realization that this was so big and so unmanageable that the global fleet, in the best interest of crew members, the best interest of guests, and the best interest of communities served worldwide, would have to stop. No idea for how long, but the waypoint was we need to stop. We need to make the necessary adjustments for stopping. We had so many tens of thousands of guests to get home safely from the ships, to disrupt who were on their way to the ships, crew members from 21 countries around the world, to repatriate at a time when countries wouldn't take people back. They closed their borders. I mean, this was a mess. So, the very first thing was, wow, dealing with the hard stop. The second thing was stay afloat. Okay, this is going to be expensive.
Yes. This
industry raised $30 billion during the course of, staying, not operating, $30 billion to hold it all together. And, and to fund what's going to be, a 2-year restart and rebuild of the industry on the other side of this COVID event. Stay afloat, what resources are necessary. And then first, we got working hard on
real quick.
Yeah.
Well, on that 30 billion that you raised as an industry, was that through private sources or was it through government, or is it a combination? Because that's a huge number.
Yeah, no help from the government, no help. This is all done through by the big public. There's 4 big public companies in the cruise industry. They own multiple brands. Then there's a long tail of smaller, privately held, more entrepreneurial cruise companies. But the big guys were able to sell stock, more stock, dilute and sell more stock. They were able to raise money secured by the value of their vessels and assets. Not attractive money, but that didn't matter. The debt, the interest rates and the terms were not attractive. That's for later.
Right.
And later is now. They're starting to refinance and replace some of that higher cost debt in order to improve their future performance. But, you know,
Right.
do what you have to do. Do what you have to do. You know, and that was the stay afloat. Okay, and cut expenses. They had to make tough decisions about cutting expenses, right? So then it moves into find your first, what I call find your first. So what's that one next thing that is essential? If you screw it up, it screws up your chances of recovery or dramatically delays them. There's a lot of things you could do, a lot of things you should do. What's the one thing to build the whole plan around? I call that the first. And for the industry, initially, you have to science the crap out of this thing. Okay, health sciences, the big science panels. How do we detect COVID? How do we deal with it? How do we, have protocols aboard our ships that prevent the spread of it, prevent it from coming aboard, testing, et cetera, in the first place? But you want to know what actually was the first for the industry, aside from all that? It was,
yes,
how do we operate without the risk of a COVID outbreak? How do we make sure everybody's safe? So the protocols can only go so far. And that became clear in the larger community. Social distancing, masks, still people, it was raging, everywhere. So at the end of the day, the cruise industry ended up being saved by the vaccine. Saved by the vaccine. Never before have we had a vaccine developed and deployed in a 12-month cycle. 4 years is the fastest. I think it was mumps or one of those. It was the fastest, typically 10 years. This industry wouldn't make it 4 years. What industry could? Not operating, not operating. Right. So saved by the vaccine. So the first became a restart. I urged my clients, the companies I advise, and I predicted to them, and then I urged them that though it would be unpopular with some, vaccine mandates for crew and guests would be the key to being able to restart. Okay. Without the confidence that you're safe, that it's a safe environment, guests aren't going to come. So you'll see today the whole industry has followed suit on that. Today, if you want to go on a cruise ship, you're going to be tested, you're going to have proof of vaccination, and that will ease in the future. But first, we need to restart this industry. We need to restart. What are the conditions necessary to restart? And then my fourth protocol was get flexible, Wait
a minute. Wait, what? Let me go in order here. So first off, the first, I would call that a center point, right? On the Blue Angels, what we did is we said, okay, what is the center point? Ours was also safety, exactly what you just said. It has to be safe first, right? And that vaccine, did the industry run into any problems like we're having now in the US, at least, with some people saying, in healthcare, but overall that they don't want to get vaccinated and there's a mandate. Did that happen in the cruise industry? Did they have to let a lot of people go that didn't want to get vaccinated, or was that not a problem?
There are certainly, the cruise industry is big, so it's a reflective of some larger social trends. Yeah. So there's certainly employees who didn't want to be vaccinated, and they have a choice. Okay, wait for a later time to work in this industry. Maybe when vaccine isn't required. There are guests who don't want to be vaccinated, but they're not going to get on a ship. It's just that simple. Right. And the industry is willing to take that. That's the smaller percentage, and willing to take that hit in order to ensure the safety, security, and comfort and enjoyability, of the most guests possible.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so we're going through your process because I want everybody to learn your process, but I also want to just jump ahead, and that is this idea of the experience, the customer experience, right? I mean, the cruise industry, I'm thinking about, I love taking Cruises, by the way. We used to say, by the way, when I was on the aircraft carriers, we would say, this isn't the Love Boat, right? I mean, we had a different kind of cruise experience.
Indeed not.
But completely different. I mean, but the idea of the experiences they can create for families, for couples, for people in the cruising industry, give me a little bit of insight as to the glad to be here of being in this industry. What does that mean to you?
Sure.
The glad to be here of being in this industry.
Yeah, for me, it's a people industry. It's all about people, not just the guests, but those incredible members of your team who deliver and make possible those experiences. Really all about your team. Without a committed team, you're not going to deliver these unforgettable experiences. So that's one thing. Passion is a big part of this. It's a big part of it. A passion for delivering great experiences, for sharing the world, for sharing. I recently developed an extraordinary Alaska program for a company with small, high-tech, green, ships, and we developed, designed to, zodiacs and kayaks and science labs on board and all the like, designed to really immerse people into destinations, whether it be Alaska or Antarctica or Greenland, Iceland, those kinds of experiences. So I designed the experience. Where do we go? Why are we going there? What's it going to be like? And I can tell you, to go into misty fjords and nose the ship into a waterfall that's cascading thousands of feet out of this clouds down the face of the granite cliffs, right? To go out into Frederick Sound, where the humpback whales come across, and to sit silently with the hydrophones underneath, and scientists on board explaining the bubble netting and the behaviors of the whales, to visit small native communities and learn the heritage, the story of the raven and the heritage of the first peoples of a wilderness like Alaska, on and on. So those are the kind of experiences that I'm passionate about, that I grew up with as a young person, and that I want to share with others.
Well, I love that that's such a passion of you. What were some of the experiences that you actually did yourself? Like if I was going to go on a cruise and I say, David, or I'm going to call you Storm now, Storm, my wife and I, we want to go on, an experience of a lifetime. Where would you start us?
All right. Well, boy, Alaska's on the list for sure. But I would say also that Central America, Panama, Costa Rica, there's something magical about the deep Caribbean and Central America from a cruising standpoint. Beautiful weather, islands, tropical, different cultures. It's fantastic. I love the Mediterranean Sea. I love the Greek islands and Turkey, and I developed programs, cruising from Athens to Istanbul on the gorgeous I was the president of Windstar Cruises for years, and that's a romantic, luxurious cruise ship with sails. If you're aware of Windstar, and slow pace, magical.
I actually was on. I was on your ship.
Fantastic.
Yeah, beautiful. You had more crew members than people, right? And I thought that was impressive. They took more crew members than people. It was Meriwether Post, right? Didn't she? Was that the ship that? Who owned that ship to begin with? Do you remember?
Well, I think you're thinking there of maybe Sea Cloud.
Sea Cloud. I'm thinking Sea Cloud. Yeah. Okay.
So
similar though, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Saying, just a luxurious immersion into being one with nature. When a ship of that size is under the power of the wind, to be on deck, to feel that, to hear it, you feel the power of it. It's amazing. You feel so connected.
Yeah.
So connected with the earth, you know? It's a neat thing. It's a neat thing.
That's precious. That is precious. So going back to your protocols, I've got number 1 was to stay afloat. Number 2 was find your first, the safety. What was 3 again?
Yeah, well, number 2 was stay afloat. Make sure you've got the resources necessary to
stay afloat
get through the disruption. Find your first. How do I start moving out of this and through it?
See.
Okay. And the 4th is get flexible. Things have changed. Throw out the old playbook. Have a fresh, curious mind. Be open to the fact that the next normal, the future does not equal the past. I say this a lot to people, you know, in the movies, it may be possible to go back to.
How's...
No, go right ahead. That's okay.
I was wondering, how did the cruise industry get flexible? So what was the changes that were needed?
First of all, and this is a really important one, how about policies? As a consumer, you're looking at maybe a little bit of an uncertain situation ahead. How comfortable are you making your deposit, making your final payments, and how applicable are the cancellation fees and charges that are normally in place to protect everybody, consumer and travel agent, and cruise line. But so there was a great relaxation of policies to build flexibility into the experience for guests. Now, that's one. Another thing, really interesting, publishing departures further out into the future. There are cruise calendars out now through 24, so that guests could dream beyond the pandemic and still engage with their favorite form of travel and their favorite brands. That's flexible. That never used to be the case. Moving ships closer to home ports and population bases so that guests don't have to fly as far if they're worried about airports and airplanes. You know, cruising resumed in the UK with just simply cruising around the UK, going nowhere else. Bubbles were a form of flexibility. So there's been huge creativity in, you know, how do we make the experience accessible and available to travelers as we move through a resumption of service. And how many of those things will stay into the future? I don't know, right? There may be some of these changes are permanent changes. TSA became a permanent change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I like to say, a good friend of mine is the head of all regenerative medicine at Mayo. Andre Terzak's his name. And he and I are having a conversation about the future of medicine, right? And we came up with that there's going to be no new normal, because a normal, you know, would say that things are going to be the same. He says we're in a constant state of change. So we're calling it the new, right? So that's, as I hear you talking about, it's a new, right? Cruising, you know, I think I'm so glad we're having this conversation, because of any industry that's impacted by COVID, you all had to really step it up. And so to have the brilliance of you to work with your clients are incredibly important. So we got the flexibility. Cruising may change. What's the next step?
Become collision proof. That's what I call it. And I say, once you know, so now we're starting to think about the future. Okay. How do we apply the lessons quickly to avoid this particular disruption impacting us again? Okay. I like to say that after each disruption, there needs to be a postmortem. What did we do right? What did we do wrong? What did we learn? And how do we codify the most important parts into our best practices as an organization, into our culture, you know, into our institutional knowledge, right? So a form of becoming collision proof is, not repeating the same mistakes twice. The second part of that is updating the incident response plan. If you're in the transportation business, you know, your people's life is in your hands, you know, and whether it's the airline business, the cruise business, the train business, you're going to have a incident response plan, so that in that intense moment of disaster and disruption, you have a playbook. You have a go-to. Everybody on your team knows where to go, what to do, what their role is in dealing with the incident. So I recommend to everybody in their life, in their company, in their career, that they have an incident response plan of their own. I mean, we have our wills, right? We have our living will, maybe. That's a form of an incident response plan. But I think I'm more about the living than the you know, than the end of life. So why not during life have a great incident response plan so that you're more resilient to change. Pace of change is happening all the time. Second thing is risk assessment. With disruption come new risks. They may not be on your list. They may not be on your radar screen. They might not be part of your risk mitigation plan. So, you know, incident response and risk mitigation, critical elements of becoming and trying to stay collision proof.
Let me share with you the what we did on the Blue Angels, because it's right in line with what you're talking about. I love your fifth step to become collision proof. We would call that a glad to be here debrief. You use the word postmortem, right? Which is a lot of things. What I've learned, and tell me how you think about this, is exactly what you talked about. We're going to have to debrief and find out what went well, because I always want to, you know, reestablish what's going well and reinforce it, right? What could have gone better? So where were the gaps? And then come up with, you say, the protocols or the lessons learned, and get them codified. I like the word you use, codified, because a lot of times you go through this process, but you end up repeating it because it doesn't become part of the culture, right? We don't get it institutionalized. And that's always, I found, the challenge in an industry as big as the Navy, right? Can you learn from others so you don't have to repeat that, right? And make it part of your culture. So that the one thing I would advise, and let's see, you know, tell me what you think about this, is the reason we call it a glad to be here debrief is I don't want to do these debriefs or murder boards or after action reviews only when things go wrong. What I've noticed is if you can put this into the culture of the company, that we want this learning loop, especially when things go right, so we can, you know, what am I trying to say? I mean, just institutionalize it. What's your thoughts on that type of debrief?
Yeah, totally agree. I'm going to share something, a lesson I learned from an individual who you may well know, Commander Jim Weatherby.
Of course.
Shuttle commander. He's my neighbor 4 houses down the road here in Road at Bend. And he and I had some wonderful conversations about all of these things. And he said something really impactful to me. And he said, look, David, here's a way that I came to think about this very topic. He said, you know, we can train like the Dickens for the known and the likely. You know, so we have our drills, our training, we can get really good at that. But how do you train for the unexpected and the unknown? That is a way of thinking training. It's an attitudinal thinking. He said, you know, before a shuttle mission, I would lay awake at night. You know, I'm the commander. I'm responsible for so much. You know, and here we are strapping it on and headed up into space again. He said, I would come to peace with 3 things. Number 1, my priority always was the safety of my crew. And number 2, the care of the vehicle. That is one of the ways we stay safe and get home safe. Okay, so first my crew, second my vehicle. The mission, that can be dealt with some other time. So when I was clear in my mind that the mission at all costs is not what this is about, you know, And this is about my crew. It's about a safe vehicle. And lastly, it's about the mission. He said, then I was at peace. I knew I would do the right thing no matter what might occur. And that deeply, resonated with me.
Well, it looks like exactly your 6 protocols, right? Are aligned with that. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Let's go to this 6th protocol now. So your last one then is
protect your value. Right? When the world's falling apart, everybody around you is doing crazy things. How do you not do crazy things that are going to actually denigrate your brand, set back your career? We see, I use examples in the cruising industry and travel industry of deep price discounting. Often the issue isn't price. The issue is other considerations. Am I ready to travel yet? Is it safe? Is it, those are the considerations. It's not the price, but in the hurry to get going again, deep discounting will occur. It will take years. We learned this with the Gulf Wars. It will take years for pricing to recover because you've now reset the value perception of your product. It doesn't matter if you're in the service industry, if you're a consultant or advisor, if you have a tangible product or an experienced product, you've got to have an eye as you move through disruption on the actions you take to protect your value. You're better to reduce capacity, reduce inventory, maintain price. You're better to add value than discount price. Protect your value. Protect your value. That's really important because as you move out of recovery, what you did with your value proposition is going to have a lot to do with how quickly you recover or slowly you recover the financial fundamentals of your career, of your business. So those were the
big you
lessons.
See, with you 100%. I was with. Yeah, those are huge. I'm so grateful that you took us through your 6 steps, because you can apply this to any industry, right? You can apply this to any aspect of your personal life or a team. Give me an example of how we would apply this in a personal situation, in a relationship.
Sure. I've had, a lot of people come to me whose careers and lives have been disrupted by COVID and other events. I believe in karma. I've always made myself available to others.
Nice.
Always. And it's come back to me so many folds more than what I've given. I've been very fortunate in that way. So people come to me, they describe their situation, and I tell them a few things. I tell them, number one, let's remember how incredible you are. Let's get to your value. Let's think about all the value that you bring and all the different places you could bring that value. Okay. So first of all, let's have some confidence and let's have some patience. Okay. So secondly, let's think about the ways that you could add to your value, even when you're not in your normal producing mode. Okay. So look to the future. What's around the corner? What do you see on the other side of this disruption or this event or this change you're going through? Okay. What do you see that you feel you see clearly and that you believe in and that you could embrace? What more do you need to learn? Who new do you need to meet? What can you do to demonstrate to others that regardless of whether you're working right now or not, that you are engaged, you are a pro, you are thinking, you are connected, you are driving. This is not what you're focused on. You're focused on the great opportunities of the future, the great contributions you're going to make in the future. That to me is an example personally. My wife and I have a life plan. We have a rolling 3 years. We map it out. We say, what's known in this time period? What do we know? Oh, our 40th anniversary is coming up. Oh, what do we know? What do we know? What together would we like to accomplish in this time period and experience? What individually do we each want? This way we know how to support each other in our individual quest. We know what our joint picture is, and we know what kind of the framework that's happening in is. And so when a disruption happens and you have that kind of framework, you have the confidence of, okay, it's a rolling 3 years. So we roll that 3-year picture forward 12 months. We not panic here. Let's free ourselves up a little bit, give ourselves permission to look a little more closely at being flexible and doing the right things during this, however long this disruption is gonna last, right? So that's a form. I advise people in those ways, you know, equip yourself, be good to yourself, value yourself, you know, and I say be a beacon. You know, there's a lot of beacons in life, the North Star and the lighthouse or the lights on the buoy. There's a lot of beacons. Be a beacon for other people. Be a beacon, you know, and in fact, encourage others to be beacons, because together you shine a brighter light, right? You shine a brighter light. So be a beacon. So value. Protect your value. Honor your value.
I love the beacon analogy. I actually wake up every morning and I go through a morning routine. And one of them I say is, may I be a beacon of light, you know, for someone, right? And I love what you said, though, is we want to encourage others, because the combination of all those lights, I think about the metaphor, you know, that you just used with the industry, the cruising industry. But really, these are life lessons, right? These are messages that you can take anywhere. I'm kind of curious, what's on your 3-year plan? I love that you and your wife put that together. Give me a little insight. What's on your 3-year plan?
Yeah, you know, always on the plan is our health, the strength of our relationship, the strength of our family. So always in that 3-year plan, we're looking at, these are the priorities. What are the things that we can do in this time period, you know, to advance those priorities? There'll be other things, you know, let's talk finances, financial goals. You know, I'm at the age now where we start talking. I'll never retire, but at least we talk about it, right? What does the next chapter look like? It certainly won't look like retirement, but it might look like, you know, a different way of contributing a bit. You know, more time together. Truly, health is really important. Without our mental attitude, without our physicality, you know, to engage with the world and to take the hits and come back, that's, you know, that's really important. So we see that as vitality as being a key fundamental, a key pillar of the life plan. So we pay close attention to that. You may know I'm an endurance athlete. I work out like crazy. I look out for my health. My wife, likewise, is very active and very smart, smarter than me about, you know, health quality even. So important. Yeah, so that's on our plan. We'll see something like our 40th anniversary, or a big birthday for our kids, or an anniversary, a big anniversary for their marriages. You know, my wife's parents are 95.
Wow.
Still living fairly independently. So we got, you know, there's big things up there that shape our view and our objectives.
The vitality part I find really amazing. What is it that you like to do from an endurance standpoint? How do you keep that vitality alive in your own heart?
I like to say, well, I'm a recovering multi-Ironman. So swim, bike, run are a regular part of my routine. I love them, even when I'm always trying to stay within at least striking distance. Even when I'm not training for an event, I stay within striking distance of at least a half Ironman, because that's a great fun distance, right? So so I'm biking, swimming, running. I'm always learning something about those disciplines. I'm always learning about fueling myself. I'm always learning about recovery. These are life skills. These are things that, yes, it's playing out for me in endurance sports, learning about the community of people who are committed to finish lines, committed to pushing themselves to the next distance. Come on, that stuff's vital. That stuff's cool. You know, I love it. And I'll tell you one other thing, the mental aspect of endurance, athleticism, endurance sports. So yesterday, it's 30 degrees. It's misty and damp, which rarely it is in Bend, Oregon. It's usually drier. Misty and damp. It's not a great morning to go for a trail run.
Yep.
You know, and the moment that thought goes in my head, I'm suiting up every time, because there's a mental discipline, right? I was down at the Oregon coast. It was pouring sheets of rain. We arrived, we drove across the mountains over there. And, you know, your first thought would be, you know, do I really have to take that run today? And my first thought is, yes, I do. It's more importantly than for my physical endurance, most importantly for my mental endurance, for my mental discipline. So accountability, you know, so that's how I get my vitalities. I challenge myself, I hold myself accountable, and I learn as I go. I try to improve as I go.
Yeah, I'm so glad we're so aligned. I have a mantra I say every morning: learn, grow, give, right? And then I realized that giving comes first, right? So if we give, like you talked about, karma, the time, give your time. Like, thank you for being on our podcast. I mean, everybody listening to this is learning so much, right? But you give of yourself, then you learn, and then that growth kicks in, right? That allows it to repeat. So I love that we're on the same. Give me a mantra that you live by, a mantra, a saying, a lifestyle. What is it that you live by?
I will. I believe and know with all of my heart that I am a bridge. All right. I have a huge responsibility to bridge what is known, add to it, and pass it on. So I think about the quality of my character, the quality of my deeds as being, I have the gift of all the moments and all the people that came before me. I have that gift. I'm extraordinarily unique. All of us are. Bill Bryson wrote a book, A Brief History of Everything.
Yes.
And in the beginning, he says, if you're reading this book, congratulations. You and your forebears have survived every moment up to this point. You want to know what the odds against that are? Okay. So it was really impactful to me. So I take very importantly all that is embedded in every moment of my life, not just it's about me, but everything that came before. And how might I better understand? How might I add and contribute? And then how might I share? And so I think of myself as a bridge, and that's my mantra. I have a huge responsibility to learn, to add value, and to share.
Wow, David, what a way to wrap up this podcast, because I love the I am statement. I love the I am, and what you put after that is so significant. And for you to put a bridge, viscerally, I can see it, right? And I can feel that that's what you're doing. How can people get a hold of you? Because you can help so many people. I mean, first off, the book, we want to get the book. It's called Hardships, and you can get that on Amazon, anywhere, correct? But how can people connect with you if they want to?
Yeah, it's really easy. David Giersdorf, all one word, .com. Can go there and find ways to connect with me, to follow, to read my articles or my thoughts, or, etc. I'm very active on LinkedIn because I'm engaged in business, right? And LinkedIn's a great business media. So just follow me on LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn. I try to add value all the time. And I look for, and I receive value from the thoughts of others. So I love being connected. Those are two easy ways right there. Just davidgiersdorf.com and David Giersdorf on LinkedIn.
Beautiful. David, I'm going to be connecting with you. I so appreciate it. Let's wrap this portion with another glad to be here share out. I'll start. I want to say, David, thank you for the honor to dive into a little bit of your thought process. You have, done so many great things, and I learned a lot about, how to not only become an entrepreneur, but how to lead a life of meaning. And I love your 3-year plan, by the way. I'm going to do that myself. I'm going to get with my wife, and we're going to sit down and do a 3-year plan, because I think that wisdom, what you've been sharing with us today is wisdom, transcends business, right? It gets into every aspect of our life.
Indeed.
So thank you for being a bridge.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for.
Over to you. You're glad to be our statement. Why are you glad to be?
Listen, I think of what you have enabled for me is an opening of the aperture, right? My concentric rings, and my chance to influence that one person, to help that one person, expands through you, and through the fact that you make yourself available in that way, and that you have an audience that's curious and engaged around action, so, and glad to be here. So all of that resonates. I love to have touched that in this time, and I'm very thankful and grateful to you for making that possible.
Thank you, David. Let's keep changing the world together. Glad to be here.
All right, onward.